Hi, friends. Welcome back to Black Book Stacks. I'm your host, Hoshonda Sanders. And it has been quite a bit since I uploaded a video, so I thought I would take the opportunity of Memorial Day, happy Memorial Day weekend to those of you who celebrate. It is Memorial Day here in the States, which I celebrate as a Black holiday because of the formerly enslaved folks who gathered in Charleston, South Carolina to honor Union soldiers before this became a national holiday. Nonetheless, it is Memorial Day. I have the day off, and so I thought that I would come bless the channel and give you guys an update because it's been a minute. I am currently 8 months pregnant. And so most of my writing and reading and energy has gone to focus on that due in the summer. So it will likely be a little while before you hear from me again, but I intend to keep the channel going. It's been 4 years. 5 years, a little bit over 5 years strong. I started in December of 2019, I think, or at least in the fall of 2019. And so I want to keep it going, but it's going to be sporadic. I hear from expecting parents that you got to buckle up for what's about to come. And so that is what I am doing. I've written a little bit about that. I'm going to add that link in the description box. But this is a book channel, so we can talk about books, and I'm here for that, first and foremost. But I just want you to know what the what the situation was. Like, where did she go? She was around, and then she wasn't. But it's for a very good reason, and we're really excited to welcome a new little girl into the world. That said, if you are new here, thank you for joining the party. The party does continue in fits and starts in the life of a writer and a creator. But I am Hoshonda Sanders, and this is my little writing community. I appreciate you being here. I have a Substack I'll also link to in the comments or in the description box. And I'll have a review of Misbehaving at the Crossroads by Honoré Fanon Jeffers, which is what this video is about. And here is my gallery to prove it. Misbehaving at the Crossroads, Essays and Writings. If you don't know Honoré, she is a poet and a professor. She also wrote the beautiful Oprah's Book Club pick, The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. Just one of the best, most sweeping, epic novels of Black life that I have read, and I deeply appreciate it. But what I love about Misbehaving at the Crossroads, first of all, let's just like sit here for a minute with the beauty that is Elizabeth Catlett's genius here on the cover. But what I love most about it is that it is a Black Southern womanist text. She has essays that pay homage to Alice Walker's In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, in part because Honoré's family history is also connected to Eatonton, Georgia, which is where Alice Walker was raised. And so her mother was an educator in Georgia, and so there's just a very distinct Southern sensibility, but there's also all of this Black feminism, womanism in the text. She starts off sort of in the modern day, meditating, I think, on the January 6th movement, rioters, nonsense, and moves very quickly into why that feels so personal to her. She writes a little bit about the politics of Black motherhood, Black women's personhood, essentially. There's a whole section essay about Elizabeth Key, who sued for her freedom because she was the daughter of an indentured servant, a white indentured servant, and an enslaved Black woman. And so this would have been in the 1660s in colonial Virginia. And at that time, they weren't really applying laws that said if you had a white father, you could potentially sue for your freedom. So Elizabeth Key took advantage of the loophole in the law, and she was granted her freedom. And then 6 years later, colonial Virginia passed a law that said, essentially, partis sequere ventrum, I think is the term. It's a Latin term. It means offspring follows belly, and it is connected to like farm animals, how you essentially determine the lineage of an animal. And that basically meant that any child of a Black woman would be forced into slavery, or would be forced to be a slave, regardless of who their father was. And I'm fascinated with this concept in part because I'm pregnant. And I'm a Black woman in America who is also obsessed with history and knows that history is very present and alive today. So knowing that, thinking about that, and the way that it plays out in our policies and our practices and our social attitudes about motherhood, about who gets to mother, who gets to nurture, who gets to be viewed as nurturing, all those things, I find fascinating. So it was right on time when I was reading her book, which, by the way, comes out June 24th. And so you should pre-order it because it's going to be amazing and such a good read. It was also a quick read for me. But I think beyond that, what I was so struck by is that Honore's voice is very intriguing in that for someone who's so accomplished as a scholar and as a poet and as a woman of letters, as a person of letters in America, as a Black person of letters in America, there's just this down to earth, sitting across the kitchen table, talking mess quality to her voice in the work. She does talk about hard things, being a survivor of sexual abuse and trying to recover from that. And so that's tough. There's tough stuff in there, but there's also really beautiful sections and language that just make you want to find out how she's going to end. There's also really a lot of humor in the book. And I say humor because I'm still thinking about the essay where there are met two letters or imaginary letters to people in academia and in an academic environment that just tickled me so, because they were so spot on. One of them is about a very earnest white woman who joins Honoré at a diversity, equity, and inclusion training and proceeds to just sort of act a little crazy. And not crazy like out of bounds, but crazy like I'm going to be your friend. Like, now that we've been through this crazy experience together, this training, which, by the way, if you're a Black person in America, like, it's questionable whether or not you need to be in DEI training, because your whole life in a way is DEI training, but that's for another video on another platform. But there are all these ways in which well-meaning white people sometimes are a lot and they add extra complexity to already challenging or exhausting spaces to navigate, and this woman is one of them. And so it was funny to read Honoré's take on that experience, because I've had similar experiences and have not seen them captured elsewhere. So what a relief. And then it's just a similar letter to another white woman who, in academia, who invites Honoré to her prestigious university, refers to her by her first name, even though, out of respect in an academic circle, that's absolutely showing off your lack of home training. And then essentially doesn't really offer her any money to do so, which is also a common practice. And I know this from personal experience, from professional experience, that it's very common for institutions with a lot of money to ask Black women to work for free. Which brings us back to that phrase, the offspring follows belly, the expectations in, I think, our country that the past of enslavement and the past of sort of involuntary labor that Black women have produced is a legacy that we will continue to reinforce indefinitely, and really at the biggest sacrifice to ourselves, which is ridiculous and needs to stop. So anyway, love those essays. I loved reading about her brief marriage. There is a beautiful line in the book. Hopefully this makes it into the final copy, which I understand are currently available, where she talks about falling in love with her own defeat. And it resonated with me, and it's in the last line of my review. But I want to vocalize it here because it was so powerful to read. I think it was actually a little bit more, it might have been toward the end of the book, a little bit more than halfway. I highlighted so many pages in this book. In part because I was so relieved. Like, you know what it's like when you read a passage and you're like, yo, this is so, if I had the right words to say that, or if that was for me to say, I don't think I could have said it any better than that. That was so beautiful. You know, I kept having these moments like that. All right, this is on page 171 of my galley. Here I am, unrespectable and unashamed, waving from truthful territory. It was hard to travel here, and even more frightening to admit that once I was a coward. I wanted acceptance so badly that I fell in love with my own defeat. Incredible. Really good. So I highly recommend Misbehaving at the Crossroads. It's one of my favorites of the year so far. Recognizing that June is almost here, I am going to start my summer reading. Um, and I'll mention those quickly because I have a bookshop list of the ones that I'm reading right now. Um, Misbehaving at the Crossroads is on it. So is Black Genius, Essays on an American Legacy by Trey Johnson, which I just started reading. It's fantastic. I'm also reading Leila Mottley's sophomore album. Listen to me. Please listen to my demo. Leila Mottley is the Girls Who Grew Big. She's the author of Nightcrawling, which I haven't read. And I don't know if those of you who have read it, I would love to hear if you think that I should. I still have the galley, and I had complicated feelings about all the hype. Those of you who've been following the channel or subscribers to the channel for a little while know that I have this thing where I don't really get into the books that people are talking about or like raving about because I'm like, what is that based on? And everyone's taste is so individual, and I often feel like somebody will hype something up and I'll read it and I'll be like, okay, that was just okay. That's actually how I felt about Normal People. I like checked it out at the library like years after the hype around Sally Rooney, and I think it probably never died down. I think people still are like worshiping at the altar of Sally Rooney. I tried to read it and I was like, cool. Like, I don't know why people flipped out. It was great, but it also wasn't like the second coming of Hemingway. Like, it just was a great book, you know? It's like really interesting. Same thing, I think, with All Fours by Miranda July. And, you know, this is about Black books. This channel is about Black books. My spaces online are about Black books because those are the books that I care the most about. But I also am always really fascinated with when there's like a mainstream buzz by a non-Black author. I want to know, like, what is that about? That's how I ended up reading Careless People. I think that woman's name is Sarah Wynne Williams. It's about Facebook. Really juicy, really good. Also a little bit self-indulgent, like a little bit not really taking accountability for her choices. But good for her nonetheless in standing up to an infrastructure and an empire that is pretty dedicated to trashing a lot of norms in society. I digress. So, if you have read Nightcrawling, please let me know what you think about it. If you think it's worth me trying to revisit it, I will have a newborn by the time I get to really finish anything, I'm sure. But I'm still listening to books. Like, I'm listening to Tina Knowles' Matriarch, and some other things that I'm trying to listen to. So there will be a mixed bag. It may be a little while before you hear what I think about these things, but I am reading them with the intention of coming back to you with my thoughts and having conversations with you. Okay, so Leila Mottley's book, which The Girls Who Grew Big, is actually kind of it's good. I think it's fascinating so far. So I'm looking forward to finishing it. The Great Black Hope by Rob Franklin is also really intriguing. And I also have on my list Black Capitalists. So a little bit of nonfiction. I'm a little heavy on the nonfiction right now. But I'm good with it. And, you know, the life of a novel takes a little while to get into. So I'm looking forward to the next experience that really brings me there. I read Happy Land by Dolen, Perkins-Valdez, and it was cool. It was a great experience. I didn't feel like it warranted a thorough review, except to say that it had some really great history in it that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that there was a place called, like, a kingdom in the, that was created basically by Black Appalachians after the Civil War. Um, and I was fascinated by that. It was really cool to read a fictional exploration of heirs property or tangle titles, which, if you don't know about, is um, one of those legal vehicles for theft of Black land in America that's led to all kinds of land loss in the Black community. The way that it is embedded in the narrative is really interesting and well done. That is what I will say about what I have read. Aside from Misbehaving at the Crossroads so far this year and what I'm looking forward to, the rest of it will be in the description box. Please click link if you would like to follow me for more frequent updates. I have become a semi-frequent notes poster on Substack, so if you're not following me there, please do. I'm no longer on Twitter /X for I think what should be probably obvious reasons. And other than Substack, you can find me on my blog. I also have a personal newsletter, and those will be the main ways to keep up with me, I'm sure, in the months ahead as I move into the great unknown. Thank you so much for your subscriptions, for your support. Please like this video, please share this video, and feel free to share your thoughts about any of the titles that I've mentioned below or in this video. Thank you for your patience. I look forward to seeing you again soon.